Hi friends, welcome to this channel Data Science with Rahul. So in this video we are going to discuss about a concept called keywords and identifiers in Python. Okay, so these words will come across around us when we are learning about a Python or when we are doing any kind of programming multiple times. So we should be very clear what is the meaning of these keywords and identifier. See, when we are learning any language, okay, it is whether it's a computer language or any other language, we should be very clear what is the word, what is the meaning of individual words in that language, okay? What is the connotation of that? So without wasting time, let's go ahead. Okay, so we know that first, what is the basic syntax? Okay, now whenever we are talking about a Python, okay, so Python has some syntax. Okay, Python has a defined set of rules that we should use whenever we are creating, when we are writing a program, and we call them as Python statements. See, in a program, you will write different statements that execute this like one by one, line by line. Okay. Now, these statements that you are writing, you cannot write in a random way. Okay. There has to be certain rules, otherwise it will be very difficult for the interpreter to understand what is the meaning of that. Now, every language has certain syntax. Okay, so the Python programming has the syntax which are very similar to the Perl, C, or Java programming language. Okay, but there are few finite differences that we are going to discuss in this video. Now, when we are talking about the keywords, so Python has basically fixed or they have certain reserved keywords. That means when we are giving any name, okay, for an example, I would like to write that, okay, PQR, okay, equal something, okay, let's say data science. That's what I want to write. Now the question is, can I give this as a variable name? Is this allowed? Okay, can I give? So the thing is like when we are listing any name, it can be any variable, it can be any class, okay, it can be any constant. Now the thing is like we cannot use those, okay, like so the Python has basically reserved few of the keywords you can't use. So for an example, if I write lambda, lambda is equal to data science. If I do that, I will get an error. Why? The reason is because lambda is a reserved word. You can't use that as a variable. It is not allowed. Okay. So these are called the Python reserved word. Now, how do we know that? How do we figure that out? Let's see the code. Okay. So I will show you the live demo of the Jupyter notebook. Okay. So let's say this is the Jupyter notebook and you would like to know which are the Python keywords are there. So what I will do, I will type a help first. Okay, I will run it. Now you see this. Okay, now in this, if you see, there are many things. We can get modules, how many modules it has, keywords, symbol, topics. So let's say if I write a keywords, and here are the keywords which the Python has. Okay, so now these are the keywords. Okay, so there are 36 keywords which we can't use, okay, in any way, okay, which we can't use in any way for any of the constant, any of the variable. That is not allowed by the Python. Okay, hope this gives you a little clarity what is the meaning of that. In simple words, we are giving in any statement any variable constant name, we can't use these names. Why? Because they are reserved for the Python. Okay, that is the simple meaning. Now let's move on to the next part. Okay, so always remember all the Python keywords that we are using should have the lowercase. You don't see any the first letter. Generally we put the capital letter, but it is not allowed. All should be in the lowercase. Now, let's move on to identifier. What is identifier is? Okay. So, Python identifier is basically nothing but a name. See, keywords are the reserved names. You can think like identifier is basically the name that we are giving. Okay. To any variable, to any function, class, module, or any other object that we are giving. Okay. So now this there are certain rules for this. Identifier always start with the letter A to Z. It can be capital or small a to Z. It can be smaller. Okay. Or an underscore. Underscore play a major role. Okay. In the Python language, we will discuss why. Okay. And followed by a zero or more letter underscore and digit. So these are the few rules. So that means I can use any like alphabets. Okay, alphabets. I can use letters. Sorry, same letters. I can use digits. Okay, I can use underscore in the name. I can use zero comes in this. Okay, so these are the three things that we are allowed to use while giving a name. Special symbols are not allowed. We will discuss more about that. Okay, so Python does not allow any kind of punctuation character like dollar at the rate this within the identifier. That is not at all allowed. Okay. Now, one more thing we should remember that is that Python is a case sensitive language. What is the meaning of that is that if you have a two word manpower and manpower, here if you see the M is capital, here you see the M is small. Now Python will understand that this is a separate variable name and this is a separate variable name. So these are the two different identifier for the Python. Okay, even though from the common sense it looks that they are similar, okay, they are same, but actually they are not same, they are different as per the Python language. Now this is basically just an overview. We will discuss in detail these identifier. Now when we are giving the names to these identifier, okay, we should have certain guidelines. Okay, now we will discuss those guidelines. What are those? So I will show you in the exactly Jupyter notebook. Now the first rule is the Python identifier is made with a combination of lowercase or uppercase letter, digit or an underscore. Now this is the valid name. Okay. So for an example, I will give you, let's say I write PQ, okay, PR equal, and if I write here, let's say hello, and if I print, okay, print, so I write print PR. Okay, see, I'm getting a hello. Now in the same thing, if I write, let's say 1, I will get this. Okay, if I write, okay, if I write anything, for an example, anything symbol, okay, and the same thing I will copy here, it is allowed. Okay, it is printing. So the first rule is it should be lowercase, uppercase. I can make it uppercase also. So I'm getting the same hello. Okay. So that means I can have lowercase, uppercase letters, I can have digits, I can have underscore. Okay. So these are the four items can be used as a Python identifier. Now the second rule says the identifier cannot start with a digit. Okay. If we create an identifier that starts with a digit, we'll get a syntax error. Let's see this. Whether is it actually true? So what I'm doing here is I'm starting this from here, let's say 1, okay, and here also 1. Now I will run it. Now you see invalid syntax. Why invalid syntax? The reason is because here I have put a letter 1, which is not allowed. You cannot start any name with a digit. It is not allowed. Okay. So I can this anywhere else I can put in the end, I can put in the middle, that is allowed. So if I run, okay, so yeah, here I forgot to remove. Yeah, so it is protect, correct. Now the third thing is we cannot use the special symbol in the identifier. Like there are many special symbols, okay, approximately 7 8 special symbol or anything, so you cannot use them. So let's say if I the same thing I put a dollar in the end, and here also I put a dollar. See how beautifully this Jupyter notebook tells that red, in the color red, that this is not allowed. Okay, so if I done invalid syntax, correct? I can put any symbol. So this is just to demonstrate you. We cannot have this in the name. The next thing is a keyword cannot be built as an identifier. Now the thing is like if instead of we discussed keywords just now. So if I write this as, let's say in the keyword we saw, so what are the keywords? See, these are the keywords we discussed, correct? Now from this anything I take, let's say I take finally, okay? So if I write here finally, okay, and I print finally, let's see what we get. We get an invalid syntax, but this is following both the rules. The only reason is that it has the keyword, okay, and keywords are the inbuilt Python names you cannot use. They have a special meaning we cannot use for our own purpose. Okay, this is the rule number 4. We should be very clear on that. Now the next one is, can we have the length of an identifier as much as we want? The Yes, you can have, but there has to be certain guidelines, okay? Because when you put a more bigger name, it will take the more available memory. So as per this standard we call PAP8, okay, PEP8 standard, that we should not exceed 79 characters in a line, okay? So in single line, if you have a variable, you cannot have more than 79 characters, the name of that. If you exceed, obviously it will not give the error, but it will consume a lot more memory, and that's what we want. We want our program should written in a very less memory space, okay, and should be very succinct. Okay, that's the whole idea. Now the last one is, we would like to understand whether, how can we test whether any identifier is valid or not valid. Do we have anything? Correct. So because I don't know whether that identifier is okay to use or not. Obviously it will give an error, but is there any way to test them? Yes. So we have something called keyword. Okay, keyword, like we have discussed, then we want to find out whether the name that we are giving is a keyword or not a keyword. For an example, if I write a var var, now if you see here in this var, do you see? Okay, it is not available. Okay, so now if I run this keyword, is this a keyword? No, is this not a keyword? Okay, so let's say I write a while in this, and if I run this, okay, I say it's an invalid character. Yeah, so here we can see that when I'm writing here the import keyword, okay, and if I print keyword is keyword and I get a true, yes, while is a keyword. Now if I put a, let's say anything, and if I run it, it's false, it's not a keyword, okay? So it is just to check whether a particular name that you are giving is a keyword or not, whether it is keyword is basically the reserved names are there in the Python, okay? That is the meaning of the simple keyword. So we have the we need to import this module we call keyword, and keyword dot, like what is the, how do we write this, we will discuss down the line. As of now you understand, like in the keyword dot, is this a keyword? That's what we are checking. See, such a beautiful language, because just it's like an English, is keyword, and then you write whatever you want to check. So if I write a for, it will say yes, it's a keyword. Okay. Now next thing we would like to check whether it is an identifier or not. Keyword we have discussed, those are the reserved word, but can I find out whether it's a reserved word or not? Okay. So for that what we use the syntax, we print, okay, and we say what is the name that we want to give. Is this an identifier? Yes or no, it will tell. So for an example, I print, and if I write, let's say 1 2 3, correct, and comma is, sorry, dot is identifier. Okay, so what should you get? You should get a error, false. Basically this is not an identifier, correct? Why? Because it cannot start with a digit. Now in the same thing, if I put a, and if I again do, it's a true, it's a true identifier, correct? If I put a dollar, it's not, it's a false. So this is helping us to figure that out whether it's an identifier or not an identifier, correct? So these are the two basically testing for testing whether it's a keyword or it's an identifier. Hope this gives you a little understanding on that. Now let's move on to our the main thing. Okay, now there are few other things that we should be aware of about the Python identifier. So there are few best practices that we should be aware of. What is the best practice? The first thing is, following the naming convention are mandatory, okay, for everyone, that we should follow so that your code is readable, okay, and it is looking nice, okay. But that is not the only thing. Now, Python community has many more guidelines. Remember, they are just a guidelines. They are not mandatory, they are not compulsory, But always, if you want to become a better Python programmer, okay, better data science personnel, you should it is advised that we should follow these practice, because finally we will share with these communities down the line. Okay, so everyone get a better understanding. Now what are these guidelines are, let's understand. Now the first thing is class name. Now when we are talking about a class, so till now we are discussing about the variables, any constant or anything. Now Python also has a class. What is class? We will discuss down the line. But class is basically one more object, as of now you can remember. We should always start this with a capital letter. Correct? So it is basically a demarcation that, okay, this is a class. But all the other identifier that we are writing, okay, they should start with the lower case. Okay, like whenever we are writing in the English alphabet, it should be from the lower case. Okay, we should be very clear. Now the next rule is uh, that begin with a private identifier. Okay, now we will discuss what are those private and public. So remember, like if you have any kind of private variable, okay, like you, it is only for you, not for everyone, you can do that in the Python. Okay, so we should start with an underscore. Okay, remember, this is not needed to make the variable private, it is only for the ease of programmer. Okay, see, this will not make that variable is a private only for you. Okay, this is just to understand for the ease of programmer that what is private variable, what is public variable. Okay, that is the meaning. We'll discuss more about this, what is the meaning. Uh, Now we can use double underscore also. Okay, yeah, so we can also use the double underscore. Okay, this is a basically one underscore, then one more underscore. Okay, around the name of the magic methods. Okay, don't use them anywhere else. Remember, Python also uses this double underscore. Underscore has a very significance in the Python language. We will discuss how. Okay, down the line we will discuss the classes and other things. Okay, for an example, this is one of the class in the Python. You see double underscore here, double underscore here. Length, double underscore here, double underscore here. Okay, so these are called the Python identifiers. Okay, now the next rule is always use preferred name longer than one character. Generally when we are writing programs, we write I equal 1. Okay, but sometimes it becomes confusing. Okay, maybe after let's say few days, few months, you read the code again, you don't know what is I is, you will be keep searching. So write a proper name like index equal 1. It might take some little time, but it will be good for the future so that you can understand it better when you read that code again. Okay, now whenever you are combining the words in an identifier, you should use underscore. Remember, don't use blank or space is not allowed. Like in this, we use this underscore get under user underscore details. It's a very good way to write a program. Okay, so don't use like a get, then space, then user, then details. Correct? Space is not a like should not be used. You can use, but this is not a better way to program the code. Okay, now the next thing is basically that we should use the camel case. What is camel case? Camel case kahan se aa gaya? Okay, for naming the variable. For an example, small, because we can't use the first as capital. Okay, we shouldn't use that, we learned as the guidelines. Capital is used only for the classes. Then if you have put this as capital, capital, this is basically capital, any other word is coming put as capital, this is called a camel case. Okay, this is a fantastic way to write your program in Python. Okay, now next thing that we want to discuss, there are reserved classes of Python identifier. We will not go in detail as of now because it's a difficult to understand at this point, but it will be very easy down the line. Okay, now what are the reserved classes? So there are a few classes, like sometimes you will be seeing some variables or some classes, they start with the underscore then asterisk. Okay, so single leading underscore, you have only one leading, like this A, B, C, like this. What is the meaning of this? They are the reserved classes. Okay, I can have leading double underscore, like one underscore, another underscore, then ABC. This is another category. Then we can have, okay, double leading and trailing underscore. So like double underscore, ABC, and then we can have trailing. We just now discussed like this class, like the initialization or length to classes we discussed. Now these are the reserved classes in the Python, and they have the specific identifier for them. Okay, like we discussed the reserved keywords. Similarly, this has the reserved classes. Okay, so that's it. I'll stop here. Okay, and we'll continue more about this in the upcoming lectures. And don't worry if you don't understand this leading reserved classes at this point of time. This is just to give you an overview. Okay, because we are discussing the identifier. Okay, so share this video so that we can learn many things from about the Python, about the data science from the core and in a very simple language. Okay, so thank you. Stay with data science with Rahul. Thank you very much.